Shalom and welcome to another Chamor podcast from abedan, teaching Noahide Judaism for Messianic Hebrews. This is not a channel for Messianic Jews. We denounce Messianic Jews. People should not call themselves Jews when they are not. And the scribes and the Pharisees are the ones who've been appointed by Jesus of Nazareth to dictate for us who is and who isn't a Jew. So if the scribes and the Pharisees say you're not a Jew, then you're not. And Messianic Jews are definitely not Jews according to the scribes and Pharisees. Therefore, they should not call themselves Jews. Because if you call yourself Jew and you're not, then you are, according to the New Testament, of the synagogue of Satan. So we tell all Messianic Jews, stop calling yourself Jews when you're not. Stop trying to do what the scribes and the Pharisees do, for example, wearing tefillin, wearing tzitzit. Don't do what they do. Jesus said, don't do what they do. They have their form of Judaism, and that's for them. What you have to do is what they tell you to do, and that is nothing but Noahide Judaism. So stop pretending to be Messianic Jews when you're not. Hebrew, you can always be Hebrew. Anybody can be a Hebrew. All the Muslims are Hebrews. They're called Ishmaelites. Ishmael was the son of Abraham, the Hebrew. Therefore, Ishmael was also a Hebrew. And also, all the Christians are Edom. That's what Judaism teaches. And Edom was the brother of Jacob. Jacob, brother, the son of Isaac, the brother of Jacob and Esau were the sons of Isaac, the brother of Ishmael. And they were both sons of the Hebrew Abraham, so Edom is also Hebrew. So all Christians, all Muslims, all Jews are all Hebrew. Okay, there's no doubt about this. There's no contest about this in Judaism. This is the fact of the matter. So you can call yourself Hebrew, no problem. You can call yourself Hebrew till your heart is content. No problem at all. And everybody who says you're not a Hebrew doesn't understand Judaism, so just ignore them. But to call yourself a Jew, that's something different. That's something special. And only the scribes and the Pharisees have the authority to say who is and who isn't a Jew. So stop calling yourselves Messianic Jews. Stop wearing the tzitzit. Stop wearing the tefillin. You don't have a right to. Leave it for the scribes and the Pharisees. Follow Noahide Judaism instead. That is the religion that Jesus promoted. Okay, so with that out of the way, we're going to have a look today at Exodus chapter 21. Now, the reason I'm going to look at this is because we have, let's put it up here, we have an issue with translations. And I'm putting up the King James translation here right now because this is the origin of all the English translations. You're not going to escape King James. King James has made his footprint on the show, and that's all there is to it. So we're going to look at a couple of, not a couple, we're going to look at the whole chapter. It's a problematic chapter. It's got a lot of perverse translations in this chapter, and I'm going to explain it to you from Judaic point of view. And of course, this is for Messianic Hebrews. This is Noahide Judaism for Messianic Hebrews. If you don't know what that means Torah Edom. Call it Red Judaism if you like, Torah Edom. It's the right that Edom has, according to the blessing given to Edom by Isaac, that he shall serve his brother. He can live by the sword, he can be an army, but he has to serve his book-loving brother, the peaceful pacifist Jacob, the religious Jew, who is a pacifist and a bookworm. But if the pacifist bookworm doesn't continue in the religious way, then Edom has a right to throw off his yoke. And that is what has happened now, because the Judaism, pacifist Judaism, is being stamped out of existence by Israel supporting Jews themselves. They no longer feel like they need to have pacifist Judaism. And so in this case, spiritual Edom, who is in receipt of the blessings of Isaac, is allowed to say, well, no, I have a different opinion on what this all means. And so it's the right time to speak out about what these verses mean and to show a more spiritual way. Spiritual Edom. Remember that you've got this thing like Jacob I have loved and Esau I have hated. What does this mean? It means basically God is done with the Jews. He's done with Israel, Jacob. It's all completed. He has completed his favor upon them. But with regards to Esau, it means that he has some unfinished business. He hasn't dealt with Esau. He hasn't given Esau the attention which Esau needed. In other words, he neglected Esau and he dealt with everything with Jacob. Now, the book of Acts talks about the time to redeem or to deal with, to save the remnant of Edom, the remnant of men, it says, but the verse is actually saying the remnant of Edom. So it's time to deal with Edom. That's what the book of the New Testament actually books is all about. The New Testament is all about completing God's favor upon Edom too, who had been previously neglected, i.e. Translated as hated. And so that religion given for the nations, that is the Noahide Judaism, is what is supposed to attract back the apostate Jew, the brother of Jacob, the one who is the eldest brother, who's supposed to have inherited the blessings, circumcised on the 8th day, went through the same yeshiva education that Jacob did, but he turned his back on his heritage. And the idea is that you can redeem, you can save that lost sheep of the house of Israel. That is specifically Esau, which is referred. You can save Esau by spreading a Noahide religion on the planet, Noahide Judaism on the planet, and converting making disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit from every language, nation, and tribe. If you do that, that makes Esau jealous, and he comes back. And so the New Testament is actually all about a clever system of how to bring Esau back. Now, when Esau comes back, he's supposed to be spiritual, serving his brother. But as I said, he can throw off the yoke of his brother if his brother stops being spiritual. If his brother is no longer spiritual, then spiritual Esau, that is Edom, can continue by himself. And so we're going to look at some translations here, which are supposed to have been done by Edom, Esau. But is it spiritual? No, it is not. It is actually still lost, deceitful, lying, cheating, godless Esau has given these translations, and we're going to try and redeem them by retranslating them and showing how they should be translated. So the first thing here in the chapter 21 of the book of Exodus is, and by the way, these laws are given directly after the Ten Commandments. After the Ten Commandments, the children of Israel say, we can't hear anymore. It's too difficult for us. We're going to die if we listen to this. Please, Moses, go and receive the rest of the laws themselves. So Moses goes up the mountain. He basically receives a constitution for the children of Israel, and the Ger who lives amongst them, and Hagarim who live amongst them, that means the Noahides, and then he leaves this constitution with them when he goes up to the mountain for 40 days and receives the tablets of stone. So this constitution is separate from the tablets of stone. This is what he leaves with the people before he goes to get to the tablets of stone. This is what they're supposed to be living by. Then he comes down with the tablets of stone, finds them worshipping the calf, smashes the tablets of stone, then goes up the mountain again for another 40 days. God doesn't write the new Torah for him in his own hand. Instead, Moses writes it out for the children of Israel, comes down and gives them the new tablets of stone around the time of Yom Kippur. Okay, but what we're looking at right now, is the constitution given before even the first set of tablets. After the Ten Commandments, before the first set of tablets, this is what's given to them. And the very first law here is about how to expand the community with regards to men and women, absorbing men and absorbing women into the community. It goes from chapter 21, verse 1 until chapter 21, verse 11. And it's about how to absorb men and women. Now, the way it's been presented in translation is not about how to absorb men and women into God's community. The way it's been translated is how to human traffic, how to buy and sell slaves. Basically, that's what it's all about. And you'll have to think to yourself, why did God, after liberating them from slavery in Egypt, from liberating them from Pharaoh, giving them the Ten Commandments, why does he then start with the first laws of their constitution being about slavery, as the King James translation says, and as every English translation since King James will continue to say? Why? It must be the most important thing on God's mind that they have to start human trafficking in order for this to be, the first part of the constitution after the Ten Commandments, right? Well, that's what they would have you believe. Yes, that's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe that God is all about slavery. And that's why these two laws come up first. But it's not all about slavery. But we're going to read through the evil, satanic translation by this human trafficking United Kingdom of the 1600s, when the King James translation was made. And then we're going to look at the true meaning. So it says, if you buy, because you can buy people, right? If you buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th year he shall go out free for nothing. Now this should be a sort of a kind of raising alarm bells for you, because there's a massive contradiction here, right? And whenever you've got a contradiction in the text, you have to be thinking to yourself, what? Can that really be from God, this contradiction? If you buy something, it's yours forever. If I buy a bicycle, it's mine. If I pay for a bicycle and I have it for 6 years, but then afterwards it goes back, guess what? That's not called buying a bicycle. It's called hiring a bicycle for 6 years. So either we have a problem with the word buy here, okay, and it should be hire, okay, a Hebrew servant for 6 years, or there is a complete nonsense going on saying that he shall go free in the seventh year. This nonsense. It's utterly insane. And so absolutely we know from the context that this instantly is not buy. It's obviously hire. So if you hire a Hebrew servant, and suddenly you've done away with the problem of Hebrew trafficking here. So it's about hiring a Hebrew servant. Now, who is you? Thou. Look at this interesting one as well. This is thou. If thou buy, or in this case, when we know this means hire now. If thou employ, if thou hire a Hebrew servant, and the word servant is also something you've got to look at as well. But thou here always refers to, do you think it refers to Moses? This is a singular you. Now, in the previous chapter, chapter 20, we do have a singular you. First of all, God gives the commandments to a singular you. Thy, thee, thou. All the 10 commandments are to a singular person. And then after that, God says, and all the people saw the thunderings and lightnings, and they said, go Moses, and speak to him yourself. And the Lord said to Moses, thus shalt thou, singular you, Moses, say unto the children of Israel, ye. And there's the plural you in Old English. We don't use it anymore. It should be, actually, it's more like Shakespearean English, but we don't use it anymore. We don't use this plural you versus singular you. Nowadays, it's all just you. But in those days, it was thou for a singular person, talking to one you one person, and ye when you were talking to a group of people, ye 3 people, you plural. All right. So you've got this plural and singular, and you'll notice that this ye is accompanied with you. So modern day English you is actually a plural word. The singular word for you in English has been dropped out of use unless you happen to live in parts of northern England and Barnsley and things like that, in which case you still use thee and thine and thou, but not very common outside of northern England. The rest of the world tends to just use the plural you for everything. But if you look for a plural you on this page, you've only got 4 of them. They're not there. Okay? Moses speaks to them and says, God's trying to test you, that his fear may be before your faces, plural children of Israel. And then God says to the plural children of Israel, you. Okay? That's it. And as for ye, it's only here. Again, you've got, he's testing you, plural, ye, that ye may not sin, you, plural, may not sin. And then here, ye have seen that I talk to you from the heaven. Ye shall not make with me gods of silver, neither shall ye make unto you gods of gold. So basically, only one commandment is given to the people. All of the other commandments, both in this chapter 20 and in the following chapter, all the other commandments are to thou. There is no you in chapter 21. There is no ye in except as part of another word like years, for example. Yet, I for I. But there's no ye as being addressed. All of the commandments are addressed to thou. So what is that? Is that Moses? Well, you could say, yes, it's all for Moses. All the commandments are for Moses, with the exception of those which say for ye, except that in the end, Moses is not allowed to inherit the land of Canaan. He's not allowed to step foot in there. And some of these commandments which say thou are to an individual who is allowed to inherit the land, who must go into the land and possess the land and take possession of the land. So the you being the singular you being referred to by God is somebody who is in the seat of Moses. Not Moses himself, but the seat of Moses. In other words, the scribes and the Pharisees as a council. The council, the government. Okay? So it means that the council is being referred to here. And when Moses was alive, that was Moses, but Moses was not allowed to fulfill the role of the council who goes into the land of Israel and possesses it. And only some of the laws apply to the people specifically. We have here in chapter 20 and 21 only one law which applies to the people individually, and that is the commandment against idolatry, to make gods of silver and gold and to worship them. That's totally prohibited. Hence, the biggest sin is the sin of idolatry, having a god before God. As for the council is basically the law keeper, and the council has a duty to organize and keep things going. So the covenant which is being given, the contract which is given here before Moses goes up the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the covenant which is being given is for the council, the organizing body who governs the society. So it says to the organizing body, when you hire, and I told you already why that is hire, we've explained that already. When you hire a Hebrew servant, and the word is oved here, it means worker, or minister, might be a good one, or deacon is another one, it can mean servant. Minister is the best one. So when you, the council, hire a Hebrew minister, 6 years shall he serve, and in the 7th year he shall go out for nothing. Okay. So in other words, you have a 6-year contract with everybody you hire to serve the council who is not part of the council. And if after 6 years, it's actually, if he says, we'll get into it a little bit later. I won't go into that right now. But after 6 years, he can go out free without any penalty. There's no penalty. The contract is not broken. The contract is completed. So if you wanted to look at this way, the council is allowed to hire employees on a minimum 6-year temporary contract. So there's no such thing as a 1-year temporary contract or a 6-month temporary contract. Those would be day laborers who get their payment day by day. But if you're going to have a contract that is a bond, it's a 6-year contract. You don't get a life contract. You don't get a permanent contract. You get a probationary period, but your probation period has got to be 6 years. So you've got your 6-year contract probationary period. And after that, you can quit the company. There's no penalty upon you, and there's no penalty upon the company for no longer giving you any employee. That's it. You're gone. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. And this is what I mean. It's about absorbing people into the community. If the council hires somebody, a Hebrew, that could be an Ishmaelite or an Edomite, for example. If the council hires an Edomite or an Ishmaelite to do some job, to do some ministry for the council, that Edomite or Ishmaelite can serve for on a contract on a temporary contract of 6 years, and in the 6th year after that, they can go out with no penalty. There's no punishment. Okay, without any more payment. It's over. The contract is terminated. If that Ishmaelite or Edomite decided to come and serve the council by himself, then he goes out by himself. If he came in with his family, if he was married, then his wife should go out with him. Understanding also, therefore, the children also go out with him. He comes in with a family and serves as a family for 6 years. He goes out with his family. That's it. But how do you absorb them into the community? This is how. If his master, which is the council, has given him a wife from amongst the Hebrews, from amongst the believing Hebrews, the Israelites, if he has been given an Israelite wife and she has borne him sons or daughters, it's understood automatically that this would not have been given to him. They wouldn't have said, here, have one of our women as a wife, have a family with them, unless they had if they were strongly persuaded, if they strongly believed that this guy was going to stay with them forever. Okay? If the council gave him from amongst their own people a wife from amongst their own people, and she had children with him, and then he decides to leave after that, then it's considered a breach. It's a basis for divorce. You've broken the trust of the council. We wouldn't have let you marry one of our women if we thought that you were going to stay with us. If we thought you were going to leave us. We only let you do that because we thought you were going to stay with us. We thought you were going to settle down with us. So, we let you start a family. And now, after 6 years, you decide to leave? Then no, this is considered grounds for divorce. And if the Hebrew woman of the community, the strong believing woman in the community, is a believer, she will say, no, I'm not going to go with you. And no, the children are not going to go with you either. The children and the children are going to stay with our community, with our people. I only married you because I understood you were joining our people. These children are my community's people before they are my children, and before they are your children. So we're staying. We're not going. This is the rule of the community. So the girl who would have married him is going to be a believer in this law, is going to say, no, the community is more important than our relationship. This is what the rule means. The community is more important than our relationship. I'm staying with my people if you're leaving. So if the community has given him a wife and she's had children with him, the wife and her children shall stay with her master, with the community. That is with the council. And he shall go up by himself. But, and it's not an and, if the servant shall plainly say, I love the council, my master, I love the council, I love my wife and my children, I will not run away from them, I'll not leave. At this point, without circumcision, without any kind of circumcision, the council shall bring him to the judges, and he shall also bring him to the door or into the doorposts, and the council shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall become an oved olam. He shall become a minister forever with them. He shall become a permanent minister, a minister to the world, along with the children of Israel. Has he been circumcised? No, he has not been circumcised. Did he have to be circumcised? No, he did not have to be circumcised. He just needed to complete the 6-year probationary contract, and then after that, it's full absorption into the people of God, and he becomes with them ministers unto the world forever, as is the duty of the children of Israel. That's how you absorb a man from amongst the children of Ishmael or the children of Edom. That's how you absorb a Hebrew into the community. Okay, that's how you absorb a man. Now we move on to how to absorb a woman. So before we move this, though, one more time to reiterate, if the guy decides that after his 6-year probationary period of serving the council as a minister, that this is not for him, then if he deceived the council into trusting him with a wife from amongst the people, this would be considered grounds for divorce, and the contract is premarital arrangement. The prenuptial arrangement in this constitution that he signs up for is that he accepts he loses paternal rights. His wife and children shall stay with the community, and he will no longer have a part in their destiny. He goes out as a non-believer. That's how it works. That's what this rule is about. So it's not about slave trade. It's not about buying and selling human beings. It's not about giving women to him as property, because women are chattel and they just be passed around without a choice. And it's not about women not having a choice and, what if they want to go with him, they don't get a choice. No, it's about believing women from the community marrying someone who they believe is going to join the community, and then that person who's given all impression that he's going to join the community breaks the trust of the community. Well, the rule is the family stays with the community. The community will look after that woman and her children. They will take responsibility because they trusted him without being wise enough to see through his guile. Okay? So that's how you absorb a man. If he's trustworthy, Baruch Hashem, praise the Lord, hallelujah, this man becomes part of the community. Alhamdulillah. If he is a deceiver, he gets sent out for nothing. If he didn't get married, he gets sent out and he doesn't lose his wife or children because he didn't have take a wife or children from the community. Now, what about women? Now, again, the King James translation is saying if a man sells his daughter to be a maidservant. And by the way, other translations where we see the word servant in the King James, or even worse, instead of saying maidservant and male servant or servant, they use the word slave and female slave. Okay, so, but that's because they're building upon the corruption which is in the original translation here. So if a man sells his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. She doesn't have a right. That's what it looks like. If a woman is sold in slavery, she doesn't have a right to leave as male slaves do. And if she pleases not her master, who has betrothed her to himself, because that's what you can buy women for, right? You can just buy women and marry her. That's it. She doesn't have a choice. And if she doesn't please him, then shall he let her be redeemed. To sell her unto a strange nation he shall have no power, seeing he hath dealt deceitfully with her. Now this should raise alarm bells again. What on earth is going on here? I mean, the whole thing is nasty, and then suddenly says, but if he does this, then okay, she can go out and be redeemed by her people because he's dealt deceitfully with her. Well, the whole thing is deceitful. I mean, it's another contradiction here, right? Well, obviously, the alarm bell should go off that the translation cannot be trusted. So let's have a look again and see what we can work out. First of all, remember that it's about the community. It's about the council absorbing people from nearby nations to become members of the people of God. So we've dealt with the male situation, and this is the female situation. Now it says here, a man sells his daughter. So the man here is not a Hebrew. The man here is not a believer. The man is a non-believing pagan who mistreats children and is ready to sell his own daughter into slavery. So the argument here is, okay, the council is allowed to purchase women from non-believing nations to liberate them, to bring them into the community and give them rights as women, as equal members of society, because they're not being treated as women by these pagan societies. These pagans around are selling their daughters as if they're slaves. Now, this is basically the commandment. You may have heard the commandment, thou shalt not boil a kid in its mother's milk. What this basically means is, it's not about mixing milk and meat, although we don't mix milk and meat. And when we don't mix milk and meat in amongst the scribes and the Pharisees, when we do that, is to remind us that we should not boil a kid in its mother's milk. Okay? What that means is not boiling a little piece of goat in some goat milk, which is considered to be a kind of a witchcraft. No, that's not what it's about. What it's actually about is not leaving a child to be destroyed by a wicked family. That's what it means. Thou shalt not leave a child to be destroyed by its wicked family. In other words, it's a kind of social service situation here. The commandment is to have a social service. The social services should not leave a little girl to be abused and sold as slaves by a wicked family. So if there is a man, and this is a wicked man, who sells his child, his little girl, to be a slave, then you better take that child from such wicked people rather than a pagan nation taking that child from those wicked people. But be careful, because if you do it at the wrong time, or if you're too late, then you will have dealt deceitfully with her. So the oral Torah gives us some more detail. What does that mean? And it tells us that if you are going to save a child from her wicked family, you'd better do it before she reaches the age 3 and a day, because if you leave it past the age 3 and a day, the likelihood is that she will not be able to be absorbed properly into the Hebrew nation. She won't be able to be absorbed properly into the Hebrew nation. And if you try to liberate a child from such wicked people or redeem is actually the word, a child from such wicked people by paying them what they think is her price and taking her away from them. If you do it too late and she grows up to be not a believing woman, not to be behaving the way a believer is supposed to behave, but actually is, as it says, pleasing not, okay, the council, is displeasing to the council, then you should try to get her back. You shall let her be redeemed. Get her back to her people that she came from. Because you failed. You failed. You shall not sell her to a strange nation. You have no power to do such things. You're not slave traders here. This is not about human trafficking. Now, why does God have to tell them this? Surely this is basic common knowledge. Yes, for us it's common knowledge because we have had our ancestors fighting for human rights for 3,400 years. But at that time, you have to remember that they had just come out of Egypt, and God is trying to teach them what is basic human decency, that you do not own other people. You can't slave trade people. He's trying to instruct them concerning something that they have no concept of because they have not been given such rights themselves up to this point. They have had no human rights. They have had no labor standards. They have been sold as chattel. Okay? They have been bought and sold and passed around as chattel, and they have not got a concept of humanity. So God is trying to instill in them humanity. And he's saying, you don't have a right to do that. You're not slave traders. I brought you out of Egypt. I liberated you. I am the God who liberates. I'm the God who liberates you. You shall have no other God before me. The God of liberation. God of freedom. Now I'm teaching you how to be humans and how to have respect for each other. You can indeed purchase or redeem a woman from wicked people, or a girl, a little girl from wicked people, and raise her up as your own people in your community. And if you do so, Baruch Hashem. If it fails, though, if you fail to raise her and she is not pleasing to the council, then you shall send her back to her own people. Give her back to her own people. Track them down, find them, and return her to them. You're not to sell human beings. You're not to engage in slave trade. And it was your own fault if it turns out negatively, because you dealt deceitfully with her. You didn't trust the instruction given to you in the oral Torah that you have to raise her from before she reaches the age of 3 and a day. And if you do purchase her from those wicked, evil pagans before she is 3 years and 1 day, and you liberate her and bring her into your community, and you raise her as a daughter for yourself, okay, for your family, for your people, if you fail to raise her correctly, even though you redeemed her at the right age, then again, that's your fault. You didn't raise her properly. You're the one who failed. In other words, if she pleases not the council, it is the council's fault. Because the council didn't observe something correctly, didn't observe the rules of upbringing correctly, or you didn't liberate her in time. You left it too late. So that's what this rule is about. Liberating children from wicked families. And if you fail to bring them up properly, that's your fault. Restore them to their families, to their own people. Do not engage in human trafficking. Your job is to liberate women from human traffickers, not to continue and perpetuate the evil pagan tradition of human trafficking. If I, the Lord your God, have made you wealthy enough to liberate children from human traffickers, then you should engage in that and liberate those children. You're not supposed to carry on and engage in human trafficking with them. You have no power to do such. You have no permission to do such. Okay? Now, if, however, you've raised her up correctly and has betrothed, and the council has betrothed her to his son, to a member of the community, a son is a member of the community, then the council shall treat her as is in the manner of daughters, as women of the community. She shall have full rights as a member of the community. Okay? She is a fully fledged member of the Hebrew people of God. Full rights. And if that man divorces her and marries another woman, he shall still maintain her food, her clothing, and marriage duty, which is not meaning he can still go and have sex with her. No, it means alimony. In addition to her food and her clothing, she shall also get a salary from him. enough food to pay for her food and her clothing and her salary. And it shall not be diminished at all, because every man is supposed to, if he marries a woman, provide her with alimony, as is a believing woman. This is ones who have been betrothed and are treated as daughters of the community. If you're a daughter of the community, you have full rights to, from your husband, from your Hebrew husband, you have a right to not just food, not just clothing, but also a right to salary as well. This is something which shall never be diminished. So the man has basically, even if he's divorced and married somebody else, he has a ball and chain for the rest of his life. He has to pay her food and raiment and alimony, right? No, actually, because remember, God is the God who liberates you. And it's not going to be a ball and chain for the rest of his life. What it says here in the last verse is not what it says in translation. We can show it in the Hebrew and you'll see it very clearly. And if he do not these three unto her, then shall she go out free without money? That is not what it says. The verb is both times a masculine verb. If he does not do these three things for her, then he shall go out free, but without any money. Meaning, if he's not happy to continually support her for the rest of his life with her food and her raiment and her alimony on top of the food allowance and the clothing allowance, the alimony is on top of that. It's not just food and clothing, it's on top of food and clothing allowance. If he's not happy about paying allowance for the rest of his life, because there's a ball and chain around him, then he can go free. He, not she, he can go free, but without any money. In other words, he gives her all of his money, all of his possessions in one go, and then for the rest of his life, he's free. He doesn't have to continue paying the charge. This is specifically for the Hebrew ministers, okay? For the Hebrew ministry, for the people of God. This is why it's very tough to join the people of God. This is not a simple matter of simply believing and saying, Jesus is my Lord and Savior. No, it's actually a constitution which applies to all of you if you are believers. This is how you live. If you divorce your wife, you're allowed to, but you have to support her for the rest of her life or the rest of your life. But if you don't feel that you can do that is too much of a ball and chain for you, God is the God who frees you. So you can go free, but you have to give her all of your money now. And now you can go after you've given her all of your money now, all of your possessions now. You can go and you can work again and make yourself a new fortune. And all of that fortune is yours and for your new wife. And she doesn't get any of it because you already gave her everything once. And that is the rights of a woman in the Edah. That's the right of a woman in the Edah. A believing woman. So believing women have to be treated like princesses, okay? They have to be treated like royalty, like nobility. Now, if you're married to a non-believing woman, she doesn't deserve anything. You don't have to give her anything. She's a pagan, okay? She's a total pagan. You should, in fact, divorce yourself from the pagan woman and find a believing woman to marry, okay? And as the lesson in Ezra, in Nehemiah tells us, you should, even if you have had children with the pagan non-believing woman, you should also abandon those children too, because they belong to her and they will never be believers. So you have to come away from those because they're not going to come around to your way of thinking. They're always going to follow the religion of their mother. It is better for you to have a believing spouse so that the child grows up to be a believer. But the believing spouse, a believing woman, is a queen and she has rights. If you divorce her, you are not allowed to diminish. You are not allowed to diminish her food allowance, her clothing allowance, and her alimony, her marriage allowance. You're not allowed to diminish this. This is her rights. This is what believing women get. They're queens. So you better be serious about marriage before you get involved, because otherwise you'll be in trouble. Okay? And don't think to yourself, well, no, this is only applying in the case of a girl who has been purchased from a pagan people. No. Because if you keep her in the community, if she has been pleasing to the council, and she's got married to a Hebrew member of the society, then she is treated as a daughter of the community. And these are the rights of every daughter of the community. But of course, King James wants to change the word here from he to she and changes the whole meaning. But it's absolutely he. It's absolutely he. Look at the Hebrew here. Now, of course, we're dealing with, this is why I think, if anybody believes and becomes a believer in the Bible, based on an English translation, I would call them non-believers. They're non-believers because they believe in disgusting things, which shouldn't be allowed, and no believer would accept that. Because the translation is just totally wrong. Now, the Hebrew here, it says, and if these three things he does not do for her, and you see here the verb form aseh is with a hey at the end, right? This is masculine. He does not do for her. According to the biblical Hebrew rules, I'm not talking about modern Hebrew. Who cares about modern Hebrew of pagan Mamza state of Israel, which polluted and corrupted and twisted the language into whatever they wanted. They have porn videos in this modern Hebrew language. This is a language of profanity, modern Hebrew. It's a language of profanity. It's blasphemy. But in the biblical Hebrew language, yaseh with a hey at the end is a masculine form of the verb. Okay? A masculine form of the verb. Yaseh is he shall do, or he does do. If he doesn't do these three things for her, then, and here we have the same hey suffix again, masculine suffix of he, then he shall go out. Not she shall go out, as the translation says here. No, he shall go out. Exactly the same as here, he. This is biblical Hebrew. This is not modern. This is why you will not understand the Bible if you go to Israel and study and learn modern Hebrew. You will be led astray. You will not understand the meaning. You have to understand the biblical Hebrew, and the H suffix here, the hey suffix here, is for masculine form. If he does not do these things, then he shall go out free, hinam, free from obligation, free from duty. But he shall go out free, ein kesef, without any money. Not without paying money. Look how they put the word paying in here. It doesn't exist. It's just kesef, without money. So you can be free, but you've got to be free and penniless. She gets all your money. And then you can start your life over again. So there you go. So that's the first two problematic passages. It's basically about how to absorb non-Israelites into the people of Israel. This is the rule for a Hebrew man. He gets a chance to be redeemed because he's a minister and he has to work as a minister. The woman, well, in Hebrew society, her duty is to be a housemaker, a homemaker, a housekeeper. Her duty is a housekeeper. She's not a minister to teach. She's not permitted to teach. The man is permitted to teach, but she's permitted to be an organizer, a director, a chief executive of a company, but she's not permitted to teach. She's the housekeeper. Okay? And a housekeeper is a good paid job. If you want to get a job as a housekeeper in London, you can be paid an awful lot of money, but you better be good at it. And the only people who are going to get jobs as a housekeeper for a rich family in London, for example, are people who already have a lot of experience as housekeepers. For example, women who have been married and have raised a family and have good experience keeping house. Housekeeper is a profession, and it's a profession specifically for a woman according to the Hebrew Bible. So the woman, the housekeeper, is not employed as a minister and gets a chance to go out. No, we want to increase the size of the society, and we can't increase the society's size by simply absorbing men alone. More important for increasing the size of the society is to absorb women. Women are more important. So once a woman joins, well, we don't really want her to go. We don't really want her to go. But if she is not pleasing to the council, She doesn't have to do the job of a minister. She doesn't get a permanent contract. But if her behavior is not pleasing to the council, if she does not behave like a believing woman, then it's because the council has dealt wrongly with her, and they shall make every effort to return her to her people, to her own people. Not allowed is any kind of trafficking here. No kind of human trafficking. So that's how those laws work. Let me go on to personal injury laws. If you want to take a break at this point, you can. So now we're going to continue with the personal injury laws of Exodus chapter 21, starting with verse 12. He that smiteth a man so that he die shall surely be put to death. Basically, the rule is this. Any one of these laws you break, the punishment is always death. Okay? So, he that smiteth a man so that he die. In other words, if you are guilty of manslaughter, you shall be put to death. It's a death penalty. You'll be executed. You're on death row. Okay? Now, if you accidentally kill a person, if it's accidental manslaughter, and if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him into his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. Meaning, if you accidentally kill somebody, you're, say, for example, hammering a nail into the wall, and your hammer goes back, and the head of your hammer flies off and hits somebody in the back of the head or in the face, and they die, that's a total accident. God allowed that to happen. There's no intention in this at all whatsoever. This is accidental manslaughter. In this case, you will not be put to death. You're not liable for the death penalty. You're not on death row. You won't be executed. God will appoint you a safe place where you can go in order to protect you from any kind of vengeance which will be taken upon you. Okay, so the first rule here, verse 12, is about manslaughter. Okay, intentional manslaughter. You're in a fight. You're fighting together, and one of you kills the other one by accident because of anger. Manslaughter. The second one is accidental manslaughter. And the third one, if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, this is cold-blooded, premeditated, thou shalt take him from my altar, even if he's a Cohen, serving at the altar on Yom Kippur, and the high priest, you shall take him from the altar that he may die, and execute him. So you've got 3 kinds of murder and 3 kinds of punishment, or 3 kinds of killing and 3 kinds of punishment. The first one is manslaughter. The second one is accidental manslaughter. And the third one is cold-blooded, premeditated murder. And the punishment for the first one is execution. The punishment for the second one is no punishment. You will be acquitted, but you will be given even a free place, a safe place to go, so that your life won't be endangered by people seeking revenge. And then the third case, it's again, the punishment is execution, death penalty for cold-blooded, premeditated murder. And even if you're serving on the altar during Yom Kippur, you can be removed from the altar at that time by the police. They have a right to come in and take you. You can't say, I'm claiming a sanctuary. No, there's no sanctuary for you. Not for a cold-blooded, premeditating murderer. No sanctuary for you. You get ripped out of the altar, and you get taken into prison. All right. Next law. So we've been through the 3 kinds of murder law, or the 3 kinds of killing law, and the punishment available for them. Next law. And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. Again, execution. It's a harsh line. These are called what you call like draconian laws. Hard line. Punishment for people who break these laws. If you hit your father or your mother, you should be put to death. Well, this should actually encourage you to understand that even when you're a child, and little baby children are playing around and they hit their parents, you have to take the little baby's hand and slap it gently. Of course, you don't leave a big giant red mark. Just to slap it gently. And you have to say no. So the child goes, whoo, and is going to cry. But they're going to have a fear of hitting you. They'll have a fear of hitting mummy and daddy. They're not going to hit mummy and daddy again. They're like, oh, that's wrong. They're not going to do that again. And they should grow up with that fear of hitting mummy and daddy. Because if you don't do that, there's a possibility that they will hit, strangle, strike, curse, something their mother and father. And if they do that, they do not belong to the community. They shall be put to death. Now, should I make it clear at this point that being put to death is interpreted as being cut out of the community, by sent out of the community. Judaism is a pacifist religion. For the part, and no matter what you've seen in Israel, that is not Judaism. Okay, Judaism is actually a pacifist religion. There is no record of Jews executing people in Europe. While we were living in Europe, we didn't have executing people. But when they were liable for the death penalty, we cut them off from the community. We sent them out of the community. And the same thing happens in the book of Acts, chapter 5, when Ananias and his wife lied to the community. They drop down dead and they are taken outside and buried. It doesn't actually mean that they literally dropped down dead. It means that they were considered dead by the community and they were taken outside and cut off. They were exiled from the community. So death for us means being cut off from the community. Death for us means losing your place in Olam Haba, the world to come. And so really, when we talk about death, we're talking about exile, outside of the people. This law up here, where the person accidentally kills, is not exile. When they get a place where they can flee to, it's within the community, a safe place, a safe house in the community. But every other kind of death we're talking about is exile, cut off from the people, sent outside. As Noahides, you can interpret it differently. You can say, well, actually, exile is not going to solve it. You can literally do the death penalty. Why? Because as Edom is given blessing to live by the sword and serve his brother, if Edom decides that all of these deaths should actually be the death penalty, then Edom can carry it out with a full death penalty on death row. Okay? But if you're inside of Judaism, the way we interpret death penalty means cut them off. But we'll continue with the interpretation as if it's for Noahides. You can actually follow out this, not necessarily by copying the way the Jews do it, but you can actually execute them. And this is to tell you how serious these crimes are. These are crimes which, if you don't deal with them, will lead to antisocial behavior and the collapse of society as a result. And I think most of you are aware, when you look around you in the society, you can realize that society is collapsing because of antisocial elements who have been allowed to thrive in society without any kind of penalization. The criminal justice systems became so weakened with regards to penalty that being antisocial was nothing to be afraid of and has led to the collapse of society. So we want to make sure you understand and emphasize that these are what we call mortal sins. Sins that, and a sin really means crime. Okay, so we can call mortal crime, or you could say death penalty crimes. These are death penalty crimes. You do not take this lightly. You do not take smiting your father or mother lightly. Even as a child, you teach them so that when they grow up, they don't do such a thing. Any adult child who smites his father or his mother should be counted as guilty of a death penalty crime. If you want to exercise death penalty by exile, then you exile them. You don't give them 20 years as a life sentence and then let them back into society. No, they have not paid their debt to society. They are not allowed to come back into society. You shall cut them off either physically, as in execution, or socially, as an exile. Now, next, Lord. And he that stealeth a man, this means kidnap. Okay, again, translation here is rubbish. He that kidnaps someone and sells him, whether he sells him, it should be actually whether he sells him or whether he be found in his hand, shall surely be put to death. Kidnapping is a death penalty offense. That's it. Death penalty for the kidnapper. Sorry. Again, either physically or socially. Up to the Noahide community to decide on a case-by-case basis, as long as you're observing the law. And he that curses his father says something like, damn you, for example. Even a sentence gentle as that. Go to hell. Go to heck. Simple as that. This kind of curse is another death penalty crime. It's a death penalty crime. This kind of antisocial behavior shall not be tolerated. If you permit it and allow it, it will corrupt society completely and lead to the absolute collapse of social order. You don't permit it. As I said, either socially cut them off or physically cut off their lives, one way or another. Now here we get to another translation which is pretty problematic. It says, if men strive together, if they're fighting, and one hits another with a stone or with his fist, and he does not die, but stays to his bed, if he rises again and walks around upon a staff, then the one that hit him shall be acquitted of murder. He will not be liable for the death penalty. It doesn't mean he's not committed a crime. He has. He will be arrested and put onto death row until the man either dies or gets up and walks around. If he gets up and walks around, then he'll be off death row. He's no longer on death row. Baruch Hashem. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Alhamdulillah. But if he does not get up and walk around, if he falls into a coma and dies, then the man who's in death row will be executed. If the man is simply in a coma, then the man will remain on death row until the outcome is clear. So he'll be acquitted if the man gets up and walks around. But he shall nevertheless pay for the loss of the man's time and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. In other words, he shall work all of his time to make sure that the man is thoroughly healed. And what happens if the man is not thoroughly healed? Well, he will work for the rest of his life to provide for that person that he has caused to be disabled or incapacitated. And this is how you make a responsible society where people are not going to have violence fighting together. It is animalistic and worse than animalistic for humans to fight and have a punch-up. And even if it takes two to tango, it doesn't matter. The one who is bedridden as a result is the victim. And the one who causes the one to be bedridden is the one who will pay compensation to the victim. Compensation for loss of time, if the man is thoroughly healed, or compensation for the rest of his life until he becomes thoroughly healed. And if that takes forever, then that takes forever. Thoroughly healed. That's how we understand these things. Now, if a man smite his servant or his maid, and here we have another one of those King James human trafficking translations again. If a man smites his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. In other words, what punishment is it? The same punishment as usual. Have you got the punishment which is usual yet? Have you understood what the usual punishment is? We've said it many times. Haven't you got that yet? That is the punishment. To be put to death. So if, and we understand this, as I said, we don't have slaves. So we're talking about an employer. If an employer hits his employee, Oved, or his amat, this is the female employee, with a rod, and he dies under his hand. In other words, if there's some kind of violent psychopathic employer out there and he beats his employees, and the employees die. And when you say with a rod, it means he doesn't even have to do it physically. It could be with any tool of the company. If the factory is working and one of the machines mauls or mangles one of the employees, then the owner of the factory shall be put to death, shall be liable for the death penalty. Industrial manslaughter. Liable for the death penalty. That means employers have to be really careful to make sure that their employees are working in very safe spaces, safe places. The workplace should be a safe place. And if the workplace is not a safe place, then you're in danger and you may be punished. And that means suffer the death penalty if one of your employees dies. Either that's because of your brutality or because of the company's equipment and your lack of care and lack of due regard with regards to the safety of your company's equipment. You are liable for the death penalty. And then it says this, again, this is the nasty King James translations. However, if he continues a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. In other words, however, if the employer beats his employees with a rod and the employee lives for a couple of days and then dies, then the employer shall not be punished because the employee is his money. I mean, what kind of repugnant law is this? And that's why I've lost patience with people who say they believe in the Bible without challenging these things. It's like, if you believe in the Bible and you believe this is God's law, then go to hell. You deserve to burn forever and ever in hell, because that is not what it says. And you never, ever thought about trying to work out what this law actually means and what it actually says. What it actually says in the Hebrew, and it's so easy to check these days. And you get disgusting people who say, well, there are no problems with the translations. Anybody who says that the translation is wrong and you have to start studying the original language to check the translation is actually deceiving you, they say. All the translations are perfect. Well, curse such people who say such things. What charlatans, what wicked, evil, satanic people they are. Because there are clear problems with translations. And if we don't address the problems with translations, then we are no better than a criminal ourselves. We are literally blaspheming God and his word by accepting such wicked, satanic translations of human traffickers. God is the God who liberates. He's not interested in human trafficking. He's not interested in human ownership of other humans. He's not interested in you having workers being allowed to beat your staff to death with a rod or half to death and let them die a few days later, and that's fine because they belong to you. They are your money. No, that's not what it says. It says, nevertheless, if after a day or two he stands up, it actually says yamod, he stands up. He gets up. He continues. He stands up. Amad. If after a day or two he stands up, okay, he gets up, he gets better, then he shall not be liable for the death penalty. The employer will not be liable for the death penalty. He shall not be punished because, why will he not be liable for the death penalty? Because kesefo, his money, who is his? Because his money belongs to the employee. In other words, if you beat your employee and your employee survives after a couple of days, doesn't die, if he dies, then you're going to be executed. But if he doesn't die, but he gets up and walks around afterwards, then you will have escaped the death penalty, but you will have lost all of your property to the victim. All of your property goes to the victim. That is God's law. That is justice. That is not human trafficking and human ownership. And that is what they don't want you to see. Because the employers have always mistreated their employees. But God's law is very, very strongly on the side of the employee. Always on the side of the employee. So this repugnant translation, and every English translation which copies it, is disgusting. And everybody who believes that that's the word of God is a Satanist. Just a Satanist, a pure, simple Satanist. I've looked at the Quran, on this channel. If you've been following this channel long enough, you know that I've looked at the Quranic verses and I've said, well, this is not what the Quran verse means. It means this if you use Judeo-Arabic, and it means this if you use Judeo-Arabic. And I have shown that the Quran is an okay book. There's nothing wrong with it if you use Judeo-Arabic. And anybody who says, well, I prefer the Arabic Quraishi translation, which means go and kill everybody, non-believers, wherever you find them, then I say, well, you're disgusting human beings who are worshipping Satan instead of God, and you're blaspheming God's name because you're not looking for life, you're looking for death. Now it's my turn to turn on the Christians and the Jews. You too are equally guilty if you believe in passages like this that they don't need to be retranslated. If you take them blindly and say, yeah, that's fine, that's the word of God, then you're equally disgusting as the Islamist who wants to kill everybody wherever they find them. You're equally disgusting because you believe in human trafficking just as they do. There's no difference between you. So now it's time to start to come down on, like a ton of bricks upon new Bible believers as well. And say, you're not Bible believers. You're no more a believer in the Bible than those Muslims are believers in the Quran. They couldn't care less about something disgusting being said in the Quran. And that shows that they hate God. And you couldn't care less about something disgusting being said in the Bible, which means that you also hate God. God is just some kind of convenient excuse for you and for them. If you live in a glass house, you shouldn't have been throwing stones. Well, you were throwing stones, and now it's your turn. That is not what it says. God is on the side of the employee, not on the side of the employer. Then it goes on. If men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her. If men are fighting and they hurt a woman who is pregnant in the process of their fight, so that she loses her baby, but there is no further damage to her, okay? Even if there's no further damage to her, then the person who causes her to lose the child shall be punished, and the punishment is executed again, either physically or socially. Cut off from the society and sent away, exiled, permanent exile, or executed on death row. That is the punishment for causing a woman to lose her baby. Even if there is no further damage to the woman, if the only thing that happens to her is she loses her baby, you're going to be on death row. Or according to the penalty that the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. Life for life is the rule. But if the husband has a different idea and says, well, we're going to let you live, then you'll pay the penalty, which is demanded by the husband and approved by the judges. The judges shall be involved in this. But if any mischief follow, if the woman then, having lost her baby, also turns out that there is some further damage to her, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, and stripe for stripe, meaning scar for scar. Now, the Oral Torah tells us that this eye for eye, tooth for tooth means equitable compensation. If the person has lost her eye, then you should provide eyes for her for the rest of her life. How? By hiring someone to be her eyes for the rest of her life. That's so expensive. Well, then you forfeit your own life and become her eyes. You have to provide. If she's lost a foot, you have to provide her with feet. How? Well, somebody to carry her around, somebody to push her wheelchair, for example. Hand, you have to provide her with somebody to write for her, a scribe. It's expensive stuff. And so what does this mean? You better not get into any fights, because when you get into a fight, you might cause harm. And that is why Judaism is a pacifist religion. We promote pacifism. And if your religion doesn't promote the same thing, then you're not following the Bible. Compensation. And notice how the rule of life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe is in the case of a woman. Now, why did God do this? Because you'd just come out of Egypt and you didn't know about the value of life, and women were just chattel passed around from man to man as slaves in Egypt. And here it's saying they have full rights full rights, full human rights, which are given by the Bible here. So you be very, very careful of harming a woman. And if a man smite the eye of his servant, this is again employee, or the eye of his maid, meaning female employee, so that it perish, he shall let them go free for his eye's sake. What does that mean? He shall enfranchise them. He shall set them up for life. For life. He shall make sure that they never have to work again a day for the rest of their lives. If the employer causes physical harm to his employee, then the employer shall give them a company pension so that they don't have to work for the rest of their lives. And if he smite his manservant's tooth or his maidservant's tooth, likewise. Company pension for life. Company pension for life for the sake of a tooth. For the sake of losing a tooth at work, you get a company pension retirement plan for life. Off you go, enjoy your retirement. We are very sorry. Here's the compensation. You'll be set up for life. You'll never have to work a day's work for the rest of your life. That is God's law. That is what God thinks about labor standards. That's what I said. God is on the side of the employee, not on the side of the employer. Now, how can you imagine that God is somehow a capitalist? It's very clearly that he's not a capitalist. He hates the capitalists. And now it says, now if an ox gore a man or a woman that he die, then the ox shall surely be stoned, and his flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be acquitted, shall be free from further punishment. Now the word ox here can apply to anything that you possess which can cause harm to another. For example, if you have a dog, and your dog, XL Bully, for example, okay? American Bully. If your dog gores somebody to death and they die, then the dog shall be stoned to death. Of course, its flesh shall not be eaten. No benefit shall be taken from the body of that dog. But the owner shall be acquitted. Why? Because the owner is presumed that they didn't imagine that their favorite animal here, or their favorite possession, machine or something, would cause damage to that person. And they've not only lost their machine, but they also have to live with the guilt that somebody died because of their machine, or because of their ox, or because of their dog. Their possession has caused another person to die. This is not a company. This is an individual. But if the property, I'll use the word property for ox here. If the property was wont to push with his horn, was known to be dangerous in times past, and it had been testified and told to the owner of the property, and the owner of the property did not confine that property, and that the property caused the death of a man or a woman, then that property shall be destroyed, and the owner shall also be liable for the death penalty, shall be put to death. Because you knew it was dangerous. For example, if somebody tells you that dog is a dangerous breed, it is known to kill, and you do not confine that dog, okay? Even though you've been warned that this is a dangerous breed, it has a dangerous mentality, and it ends up killing someone, then not only shall your dog be killed, but you shall be on death row as well. And that is how you keep a just and fair social order, which doesn't get out of hand. And this is how the Jews lived for 1,000 years, from the 900s until the 1900s. We lived by these laws. And our society did very well, thank you very much. Even though we were being persecuted like mad by the non-Jews, by the Gentiles. But amongst ourselves in our own villages, we were very well organized. And if you want to escape the coming chaos, which is going to come on the planet, absolute chaos, then you better start learning these laws and how to live according to the constitution given by God for whenever society collapses, which is going to collapse very soon. Now, the next law. If there be laid on him a sum of money instead, then he shall give for the ransom of his life whatever is laid upon him. He will be arrested and put on death row. That is the death penalty because he didn't confine the dangerous animal or the dangerous property. It can also be, for example, he didn't cover up a dangerous pit, for example. He will be on death row for that. But if instead of his death, the victim's family demand a sum of money, then he shall give the money for his life instead, and he will be able to be acquitted of the death penalty. He will be free from death row, as long as he's able to pay the penalty for his life. This is a ransom. Okay? Whether the ox, in this case, or the dangerous breed dog, for example, has got a male or a female, a son or a daughter of the community, whether it's a male or a female, according to this judgment shall it be done to him. It's equal judgment for the same. Again, to try and teach the Hebrews who've just come out of Egypt, men and women are equal and have equal rights, and their lives are the same in value. It doesn't matter whether it was a boy or a girl who was killed, whether it was a male or a female who was killed, the same rule applies. You can't say that, well, it was just a woman who was killed, which is the sort of thing they would have said in those days. No. Not it was just a woman who was killed. Whether it was a son or a daughter, a man or a woman, same punishment applies. This is, again, just a rule to try and help people understand about equality. If the ox shall push, this is concerning the oved, okay, of the master. This is a case of the council, a minister, a religious minister. If the dangerous property shall harm, okay, an oved, a minister or a female minister, a deacon or a deaconess, then the owner of the property shall give the council 30 shekels of silver. Now, we'll explain silver just so you know. Biblical silver, Hebrew silver, does not tarnish ever. It is a pure substance like gold. We know that very clearly from the Bible and from the Hebrew scriptures, from the Talmud, for example, the oral Torah. Hebrew silver does not tarnish. In other words, Hebrew silver is platinum. Gentile silver, like the Egyptian silver or Roman silver, is silver as you know it today. Gentile silver tarnishes. It goes black over time. It gets covered in silver oxide, which is a black substance which tarnishes it. Hebrew silver does not. Hebrew silver is platinum. Platinum. Now, 30 shekels of platinum works out at about 60 ounces of platinum. So value goes up and down, but it's roughly around about $40,000 today, maybe $50,000. Could be up to $60,000. Okay? So if it pushes a man servant, a deacon or a deaconess of the council, then the person shall give the council the equivalent of 60 ounces of platinum, and the property shall be destroyed. Okay? That's how it works. Now, that might sound like a lot, 30 shekels of silver. It's equivalent to about 60 ounces of platinum, troy ounces. But the value of a woman's virginity is 50,000. That's 50 shekels. 50 shekels of platinum. If this 30 shekels is 30,000 minimum, then the value of a woman's virginity is 50,000. And if you are a woman who has given your virginity away for anything less than $50,000, then you're an idiot. You're a complete and utter moron. Because God says your virginity is worth 50,000. Or, to put it in biblical terms, your virginity is worth 100 troy ounces of platinum. But you've been convinced to believe that your virginity is worth nothing. By what society? By Hollywood society. Oh, you're a virgin? That's what you've been brought up with. You're at American TV. Oh, you're still a virgin? They make fun of you in school, right? You moron, for believing such an idiotic trick. They tricked you out of your worth. You became worthless. A man should give the bride, a virgin bride, the equivalent of 100 troy ounces of platinum. That is God's law. If you say it's not necessary to give that much, I don't mind, then it doesn't relieve him of the debt that he owes you. He still owes you. And that's why in the earlier law, just so you know, in the earlier law concerning divorce, he still has to provide a food allowance, a clothing allowance, and a duty of marriage. That is not sex. That's alimony. And if he doesn't want to do that, then he has to go and give her all of his money. That is the law of God. So God is on the side of women too. Not only is God on the side of the employee, God is on the side of women. Men have a tough job, a tough role in Judaism. You have to be a real believing man in order to adopt Judaism as your religion. And this is the same for Noahide Judaism as well, just so you know. If you want to have a constitution, people don't say, what are the laws of Noahide Judaism? Well, here are the laws. This first part, Exodus chapters 21 to 24, are the constitution for the Noahides, if you want. You only need to keep the 7 laws of Noah, yes, but if you want more, if you want Noahide Judaism, then this is your constitution. And the same rule again, not just an ox, for example, if it's an open pit, dangerous land. If a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and somebody else's property, an ox or an ass, falls therein, then the owner of the pit shall make restitution and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his to dispose of. He has to deal with it. Restitution. Same sort of rule. You had left something dangerous. That's your fault. You should be responsible. Be more responsible. And then we'll have a good and nice society, a safe society of responsible people. And the last law for today, here we go, last paragraph. And if one man's ox hurts another, or property hurts another person's property, so that the other person's property dies, or the ox dies, or the dog hurts another person's dog and a dog dies, then they shall sell the living animal or living property, the unharmed property, the unharmed ox, and divide the money of it. And they shall also do the same with the dead ox, and they shall have equal parts each of them. Or if it be known, and this is if it was unknown, if it was not known that there was any danger, that the property was not known to be harmful. But if it was known that the property had used to push in times past, was dangerous, and the owner of the property had not kept it confined, then he shall surely pay a full restitution of the other person's property, and the dead property or the broken property shall be his. Okay, fair enough. This is God's law, this is God's justice, and that's chapter 21 of the book of Exodus. So I thought it was necessary to go through those laws, and that's all there is to. I don't get this language. I want to talk about the Platon claim, please. Don't talk about the word claim. This is a fact, cool dog. Okay, you accept it or you get lost. That's how this channel works from now on. I'm sick and tired of religious charlatans. Really sick and tired of religious charlatans. Okay? I'm really sick and tired of religious charlatans. I am sick and tired of people who think that they're religious, believing disgusting things that are said by God. You can go to hell and you can burn in hell as far as I'm concerned. I don't care about you anymore. I'm done with you. I'm done with all of these Christians and Muslims and Jews who make disgusting claims about God. Burn in hell. Burn in hell. That's all I want to say to you. This is not a claim. This is a fact. I am dictating it right now because I have the authority to do so as a disgruntled Edom. I'm throwing off the yoke. I'm throwing off the yoke as per the blessing of Isaac to his son Edom. I am throwing off the yoke of unspiritual Jacob. I have become restless and I'm throwing off the yoke. And this is how it's going to be from now on. God is beyond your blasphemies. He is free from your blasphemies. I'm not to sit here and say, oh, I have to go along with this religion because that's what the religion says. No, actually, if you understand the religion deeply enough, you'll understand that you can throw off the blasphemies of all of these false teachers and say, go to hell, the lot of you. You are all accursed of God. You and your teachers, you and your translations, your imams, your rabbis, your pastors, priests, elders, all of you. We've got a new way of doing things now. The state of Israel is arresting religious scholars, throwing children of religious scholars into prison for not serving the IDF. Judaism, as we know it, is dead. Nobody is standing up for the religious Jews. This is the Holocaust all over again. This is the Holocaust all over again. We have a new way of doing things now. This is how it's going to be. And those of you who are true to your faith in God, who know that God is just and kind and fair, you're going to have to realize that God is not a capitalist. He's on the side of the women, he's on the side of the employees, and he's not interested in human trafficking. All right, I'm going to go through some of the comments here, and we'll see how they go. So we have this comment from Richard Mackins. I think it might be Matskins. Mackins says, hey, been watching you a while now. Very informative. I got to say, well done on your Islam theory. People are only just catching up to you. Yes, they're way behind. They're way, way behind. I don't know what to say. I don't know. I don't know what to say. They're way behind. But they're catching up. Fundamentally, the Quran is an educative theater, which was written for people who were basically ministers to Noahides. Messianic Noahide Judaism is the religion of the Quran. Messianic Noahide Judaism. Same religion as this channel, Messianic Noahide Judaism. That's the religion we promote. And it was written not in Qurayshi Arabic, which people struggle to try and make sense of it from Qurayshi Arabic. It's not Arabic. It's written in Judeo-Arabic. That's all there is to it. Very simple. Hani ibn Kabisa is the historical Ali. Hanzala is the historical Muhammad. And the Muhammad in the Quran is not even Hanzala. The Muhammad in the Quran is Yeshua Sar Hapanim, Memtet. And they will take their time to catch up. But I'm glad that you stuck around long enough, Richard, to notice this. And this is not arrogance. This is simply knowing about Messianic Noahide Judaism. Because if you understood Messianic Noahide Judaism, you would understand, oh, clearly the Quran is promoting Messianic Noahide Judaism. It's obvious. It's a no-brainer. The problem is that people haven't been informed about this religion, And I am at least, breaking ground in trying to help people become familiar with this religion. And so thank you for sticking around and learning about it. Hopefully you'll recognize today that Messianic Noahide Judaism is a pretty cool religion. It's a pretty cool religion. It's harsh. It is hard line. It's not no wishy-washy thing. It's serious. But it's a pretty cool religion. Okay, so Torah Judaism International says, hi, I would like to discuss your views. You're welcome to come into this channel and discuss your views with me after. And anybody else, this is also Cool Dog says he would like to join. You're welcome to both join. I'm going to stick the link into the channel there. You can join, but I will not add you to the live stream. So don't expect you're going to use this as a platform to preach your own ideas. This is a platform where I can preach my own nonsense, and nobody else's nonsense is going to be preached here, okay? This is my nonsense channel, all right? Nobody else's nonsense will be tolerated, okay? This is my nonsense channel. Okay. But you're welcome to come to the studio, and when I finish this show, we can have a chit-chat. You're welcome. Okay, anybody else is coming. You can come in. I think we can take up to 6 people. So it's the first 6 who come in. We'll end the stream, and we'll have a private chat behind the scenes. You can slam me as much as you like, and I can insult you as much as I like as well. But hopefully we'll have a positive discussion. And then, who is this? Gamer BK Troll says, have a debate with Torah Judaism International. No, I don't do debates. They're childish. Debates are for children. Sensible discussions between adults, that's what I'm interested in. And if I can't have a sensible discussion, I'll just cut you off. Can you send me a StreamYard? I've StreamYard link. I have sent it to you, and you're welcome to pop into the conversation afterwards and have a chit chat with me if you want to. Hitesh says, Shalom Hacham, thank you for your message. Very important for people who are yet to be married. Your believing wife is a princess. Very well said. God bless. Indeed, she is. Okay, very good. Thank you for that. And then we basically have a request from people to have a chit chat with me. See if there's anything else which is relevant. Cool Dog says he didn't mean to say it in a rude way. God forbid. God bless you. And I'm pretty sure you wouldn't, because you are a regular viewer here. But I want to use the language which comes up whenever I can to highlight a problem to anybody who might have an issue. So I used that word because you used the word claim there. I wanted to highlight the problem with the word claim. I can see a couple of you come into the channel right now. You hang on, because I'm just going to finish this and we'll have our chit chat afterwards. So just hold on. Let's have a look and see if there's anything else. Cool Dog says, I'd never heard about this idea before, so I was interested. And anything else? And he says, so I would be really interested to understand what you said about silver being platinum, because I never heard it, and it seems very interesting. I would appreciate it if you could talk with me. You're welcome. And now I am going to talk with you, because I can see that you have come into the studio. And so I'm going to end the live stream and put you both into the conversation. So thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you will appreciate the wonderful constitution given to us at Mount Sinai through Moses. Nobody has ever come up with anything like this, even if it has been disgustingly translated by pathetic individuals in the past promoting and pushing a human trafficking agenda. They can burn in hell. Let them all burn. God's given us something fantastic, which is going to save us from the coming disaster. Chaos is coming now. You know what's going to come is absolute chaos is coming on the planet because of what they're doing in Israel to the religious scholars. Well, we should be prepared. You can be prepared by studying this with us on this channel. God bless you all. Take care. Shalom. Bye-bye.